Near 11.2 million, that was the number of unemployed Americans in 2023. Incredibly, this figure is the lowest in 54 years.
Unemployment rate fell to its lowest since 1969.
517,000 jobs were added to the U.S. economy last month. That's almost double the number of jobs added the month prior.
With an unemployment rate of 3.4% in the United States, it seems the economy is recovering. Indeed, on paper, the job market now is robust, as the employment report from January also showed that the labor market of 2024 had started on a solid note.
The state of our union's labor market is strong. In fact, data released by the Labor Department Wednesday shows there are almost 2 job openings for every person who has quit or been laid off.
Concrete data suggests that the job market has been quite solid and indeed surprisingly resilient, especially after 2023, where there were mass layoffs and recession forecasts.
Layoffs in technology just keep coming. The latest, Google cutting hundreds of jobs.
Massive layoffs today, cutting the jobs of at least 115 employees. It's the largest workforce reduction in the paper's 142-year history.
Despite economists talking about how well the economy is doing, 12% of ordinary Americans feel that it is very difficult to find a job today. So, why does getting a job feel impossible now? And is the American labor market as strong as it seems? On average, full-time unemployed workers applied for an average of 30 jobs, only to receive an average of 4 responses or calls. In a survey conducted by the Pew Research Center, 55% of unemployed adults said they were burned out from looking for a new job. But the younger generations were the most affected, with 66% complaining of burnout from job searching.
Well, one man's quest to find a job is raising questions about the labor shortage right now. He says he applied to more than 60 entry-level positions. Entry-level. But he got one interview, and he's not the only one.
According to a quarter of Americans, job searching is a long and tedious process, as a study showed that applying to a job through a job board only has a 3% chance of getting hired, making Americans have to search for many different jobs to increase their chances of being hired. Experts say this is due to the growing use of technology and job platforms, as many more people apply for the same job, and companies cannot read all the applications. Another significant factor is that there has been an increase in the average time it takes a company to hire an employee, reaching a record high of 44 days in the first quarter of 2023. With some industries like the energy and defense sector taking more than 67 days to hire a person. With some companies conducting up to 5 interviews with multiple rounds and assessments, Americans feel that getting a job today feels almost impossible. And they're right.
There is another side to this ongoing labor shortage that may surprise you here. Millions of qualified workers hitting the streets every day searching for jobs, but getting rejected.
While there are millions and millions of jobs available, there are millions and millions of Americans who are applying for those jobs who are getting rejection after rejection.
Data have shown that the use of excessive interviews and assessments to gauge workers' knowledge is ineffective, as about 40% of workers who applied for a job in the fourth quarter of 2023 ensure that in their interviews they are not asked about concrete things related to their area of work. Similarly, 27% of employers claim that it is not possible to determine how good or not a candidate is from the first interviews or without first having a trial period of at least a month. Generally, there are 2 terms economists use to describe the state of the labor market: tight and loose. Typically, when economists talk about a tight labor market, it means it is difficult for employers to find workers, so employers tend to be more reluctant to lay off and offer higher hiring benefits, either by offering bonuses or providing on-the-job training. Conversely, a loose labor market is one in which there may be layoffs and hiring freezes. This is the worst scenario for workers trying to enter the workforce for the first time.
It's becoming more and more difficult for young people to enjoy their jobs or even find work that they got an education in.
According to several economists, the American labor market is loose. But to understand why, we have to go back to 2019.
1 out of every 7 small businesses, as a result of the virus, have closed permanently.
Disney employees learned in a memo tens of thousands of people will lose their jobs.
And it's not just the airline workers who will suffer. The effects will ripple throughout the economy.
During the COVID-19 pandemic, about 16% of American workers lost their jobs. However, by the end of 2021, as businesses began to recover, employers started hiring at record levels, So with so many job offers with better pay, American workers began to quit their old jobs, causing a phenomenon that came to be known as the Great Resignation. However, the consequences of this resignation trend were not visible until the end of 2023, where several economists point out that the labor market has been cooling since then.
COVID-19 is continuing to impact the U.S. labor force.
150,000 tech workers have been laid off in 2022 alone.
Amazon today announcing it's going to cut 18,000 workers.
According to a new report, it may get worse in the months and years to come.
Despite the wave of massive layoffs in the tech sector during 2023, the layoff rate across the entire labor market does not exceed 4% so far in 2024. However, the hiring rate has also been reduced, reaching about 5% in the first months of the year. Several economists point out that this cooling of the labor market could also be caused by employers' uncertainty, as 58% of employers claim to have doubts about expelling workers due to the potential lack of skilled labor. But on the other hand, that also means that many unemployed workers are left without job options to apply to due to the lack of staff turnover in companies. Meanwhile, a LinkedIn research found that the intensity of job search by applicants in the U.S. grew by 27% in 2023 compared to the previous year. According to the data, in 2022, there was one open job for every active applicant on the LinkedIn platform. By 2023, the ratio became one job for every two active applicants.
Millions of people are still looking for work, but some employers say they can't find enough skilled workers for certain jobs.
Experts assure that the cooling labor market is not a cause for concern yet, as they assure that after the wave of massive hiring that occurred after the pandemic, the current labor market would seem weak, but it is not. Another cause of this stagnation in the labor market are the decisions taken by the Federal Reserve to combat inflation. With measures such as the constant increase in interest rates during 2023, the U.S. economy has been slowing down, and at the same time, so have the markets, being the labor market the largest.
From factory floors to farms to Main Street USA, every interest rate hike ripples through the economy.
Fed will raise rates by 0.25% as the Fed remains hopeful that inflation will continue to cool off.
Experts have pointed out that the health of the labor market is intrinsically linked to the direction the economy takes. A significant slowdown in 2024 or entering into a recession would demonstrate the resilience of the labor market, but it would not allow overlooking the broader economic trends. Although there is some optimism regarding the economy, this does not necessarily mean that job searching becomes an easy process. The current situation is shared by a wide number of Americans, being a reflection of the prevailing circumstances in the economy in general and not an isolated or personal situation. Things like uncertainty, along with the particularities of employers regarding their hiring practices, contributes to the complexity of the labor market landscape, making getting a job today not an easy task for Americans. At Economy Media, your opinion matters to us. Subscribe and let us know what you think in the comments below.